have a very huge discussion in regards to the national budget locations, looking through with the papers and what is coming through. And we are into our topic of discussion, breaking down the national budget. Now with me, I'm joined by Honorable Silas Algon, and we are going to be having a breakdown of some of the issues to do with the expenditure part of it. But first, Honorable, if you can help me address the people out there.
Thank you. You'll allow me to remove this mask so that
Please.
I'm able to be seen clearly.
Yes.
Silas Algon is my name, Member of Parliament representing the people of Kumi Municipality in Kumi District. And Kumi District is at the south part of Teso in eastern Uganda. I'm an independent. By God's grace, it's my second term of office. While in Parliament, I serve in two committees, Committee on Education and Sports, and then the Committee on PAC Central, that is Public Accounts Committee Central. Thank you.
All right, Honorable. Now, today is a day most of the Ugandans are very excited about, because most probably all of us have been waiting for this, and with the state of the nation that we actually are under, when you look at the inflation, the cost of the prices, before we even go into the breakdown, what are some of the key anticipations ahead of the budget presentation today?
Thank you. First of all, most of the issues are already out in the corridors. People know almost what is in the budget. Though there will be a lot of expectations from the public, and there are those who are waiting to confirm whether the whispers they had are indeed correct. Yeah, so today is a big day, like you said. Of course, we are talking of a budget of around 48 trillion. And all Ugandans are looking at that and they are saying this is quite a big basket. What is it that is there for us? So everyone is expectant. You know the atmosphere around Uganda right now. More so when you talk about issues of bread versus cassava. What is it that is there for bread? What is it that is there for cassava? So there are issues, most especially around the issues of the table, the plate, food. Okay. Anything that helps people to reduce on what? The cost of food. And you know that there has been a tremendous rise in the prices of essential commodities. People are looking out there asking questions around issues of soap. How much are we going to pay for soap? Maybe through this budget, something will be done. So everyone is going to be tuned. There are issues of cooking oil, issues of wheat, issues of fuel. That one is for everybody. Remember today, the cost of fuel per liter is almost going to 6,000 shillings. And I am surprised, for the first time from the time I was born, I have seen the cost of diesel go above the cost of petrol. It is something unique. So it is a big expectation in the public to hear about what government is exactly doing around the issue of bringing down the cost of fuel. So everyone is squatting and really around their TV.
Okay.
Yes.
Now let's go into some part of the breakdown now. We've got the interest and debt payment taking around 17.38 trillion. And our issue with the public debt is that even before this, is that we may need to borrow more money to finance the budget, but then we have to as well clear some debt.
That is it. It is quite a complex situation. And that is why, you see, if you realize at the time when we were debating this budget, at one point I had an opportunity and I was telling Parliament that we need to be calm, we need to be sober, we need to be cool for us to manage to come out of this situation. Because this year is quite unique, things are not normal. So if we don't contain our nerve, we shall fail. And usually, if you're a good person in terms of budgets, you start with issues of revenue. Don't jump and first start talking about expenditure. You think about the sources of revenue.
Okay.
And Uganda should be first of all, thinking about what we have been utilizing as our sources of revenue. We've been relying on taxes heavily. We've been relying on donations. We've been relying on really those major two sources of revenue. But you are all aware that donors are no longer doing the big job like they used to do. Because after COVID, post-COVID, there has been a big change around the world. Those who have been donating for us have retracted. They have gone back to first put their countries first.
Okay.
Because COVID affected their revenues, They need to focus on their people. They want to revamp their economies. At the same time, we are talking about the issues of Ukraine-Russia war, which has affected the world. You know, because now of global kind of action, because of globalization, countries are interdependent. So we depend on each other around the world. Whatever affects one country affects the other. So before we talk about expenditures, we've got to talk about revenues. Where is the money coming from? So, as a parliament, there is a big debate always. What do we do? Do we raise money through taxes or we borrow more money?
Okay.
The issue is, if you decide that you want to raise more taxes, you've got to add on the cost of fuel. You've got to add on the cost of soap. You've got to add on the cost of nearly everything so that you get money from the citizens. Okay. And what is the implication? There will be a big outcry in the public. You have raised taxes. Where are we going to get all this? Livelihood is going to be hard. And that is the reality around the ground. To the contrary, if you do not want to use the tax approach, now you've got to go out and what? Borrow. You borrow because you want to fill the gap. Because of service delivery. There are issues of education, health, the social services. Education and health, all this needs money. You cannot stay them. Because the country will just be locked up in the future if you don't invest in such sectors. Agriculture is waiting for money. So the option of borrowing is meant to fill the gap that is left by the failure to pick money from local revenues in terms of taxes. So once you borrow, you know the implications. The implication is that you are going to pay a lot in terms of interest. Today, in this budget, you can be able to see that we have interest payments almost to the tune of 17 plus trillion, or a lot of money. Okay. Look at how much that money would have done in the budget if it was freed up, if it was money which was available for normal expenditure and budgeting. And that's where we are. But we've got to ask our question. This money that we borrow, because the biggest issue is the money that we borrow, does it yield big benefits to the country? So I'm now talking about the question of productivity. Productivity, if you are to get the result, productivity is equal to the output divided by the input. You get what you have been able to get out of this. So it is a question that is very, very important for us to answer. The money that we have been borrowing,
okay,
is it performing? Isn't it being chewed up by corruption? We are talking about the roads. Are they really roads which are being produced at the right cost, or we are overcosting our roads? So are we paying for money which is well spent in terms of value for money? So those are some of the big questions. If we are borrowing on education, are we very sure now that every child is going to school? If we are borrowing money for business, are we sure now that the business community is well supported to get money at a lower cost? Because for you to do business effectively, the cost of money must be low. Are we sure now that our people are able to get money at the right cost? Those are some of the questions. So borrowing money as per se is not a bad idea. But the issue is the money that you borrow, where do you put it? And as a person, I would be interested in making sure that as a country, we invest in paying the salaries of our workers. Because, those, for instance, the doctors, if you don't motivate them, then who is going to work for you? It is very, very important that we make sure that we pay for salaries as a priority. Number two, it is very important for us to skill the people whom we are employing. It is just one thing to have numbers around the workforce, but it is the other to have a skilled workforce. For you to have a proper output, you need to have workers who are well skilled. You can come out of the university with a degree in engineering, but you might not be skilled. I'm afraid. So those are some of the issues. The education system needs to be well structured to accommodate for skills. And beyond that, because those are the things, those are the drivers, those are the ones that can help you to.
Yes. By the way, I just wanted to actually I wanted us to head into that. I wanted us to head into mainly some of the sectors that you do believe should be prioritize. One, if you're to look at the key priorities, security has always been prioritized because even with the breakdown, security and governance have taken a sum of around 7.3 trillion. 7.03 trillion shillings going to security and governance in terms of the budget allocation. So out of the 48.1 trillion, that means the 7 is heading into security and governance. But if you're to look at the other sectors, which other sectors do you believe, besides security and health, top priorities, which other sectors do you believe should be prioritized or should have been prioritized with this budget?
First, before I talk of that, you'll allow me to comment about security.
Please.
One, it is good to budget money for security because indeed, you can make a comparison between Uganda and Somalia right now. Whether an investor will accept to go and invest in Somalia or should come to Uganda. Based on the security situation, of course, one will be able to rush to Uganda because of the current stability. Security is very, very, very important. You have seen just of recent, the cattle raiders have disorganized our corridor between Teso, Lango, Acholi, Sebei, and Karamoja. Nobody can be able to do even just mere agriculture. Why? Because of issues of security. What am I trying to imply here? We acknowledge the importance of security. And I do acknowledge as a person the importance of security. My concern is usually most of the security budget is concealed into what we call classified expenditure. My problem now is how certain are we, how sure are we that the money that we pour into security is really doing something which is for us? How sure are we that somebody is not sneaking this money from that pocket and using it for other means? Those are the questions, because we have decided to, this is an opportunity cost.
Okay.
Instead of putting it in priority areas outside security, we have put it in security. Who gives us the assurance about what this money is actually producing? So my issue is about transparency around the budget for security.
Okay, but I would still believe if security is a very pivotal role in the sector or in the economy mainly. Why? Because probably if we're not secured enough, or if at all there is no political stability in the country, then business may not prevail. And most Ugandans will still back the idea that security needs these particular allocations.
Yes.
So when you mentioned something to do with transparency in terms of the security allocations, should I imagine that there is money that does not directly go into security?
That's what I think. That's what I think. Because, okay, my issue is 7 trillion is a big figure. Of course, I know if, because of the number of soldiers that we have, I believe we have well over 40,000 men and women in the force. Their salaries alone, their health care, their upkeep takes a load. That one I want to acknowledge. But in terms of acquisition of equipment and what have you, if we are taking a big chunk annually, what is it that we are buying? What is it that we're investing in? The transparency around the investment in security is something that we do. It helps us to build our confidence in what we are doing. But I can tell you, I want to acknowledge as a person that it's very, very important to equip our security force. I say so because I've seen, like now, in a situation of Russia versus Ukraine, in the event that you have a conflict between the state and state, and they find you naked in terms of ammunition, in terms of equipment, it becomes an issue. So, but all in all, transparency around security needs to be increased. Now, away from that, you'll allow me to comment and put my input in terms of what I would think should have taken the lion's share. My main focus should be on productivity and how the country is able to generate more resources for the next envelope to be bigger. And that should be our focus. By that, I'm now trying to say, if you are looking at the next year being a year which is progressive in terms of tax collection, in terms of increased revenues, what should we be doing now? We needed to be making sure that we put a lot of money around the business sector, having a very strong, solid private sector, well-financed, well-funded. We would have loved to see the bigger chunk of money go to UDB, but also at the same time see to it that the transparency around how this money is utilized is better and better. I say so because yes, there's a likelihood that we put money in the UDB, but that money might be used by 1 or 2, 3 people only, who are well advantaged in terms of relations with the people who are within the corridors of power.
Okay.
And that can become an issue. So we want money. Somebody will ask you from outside there, but you're a member of parliament. Why didn't you do it?
Okay.
What did you do? You know, that house is a house of figures, a house of numbers, and sometimes you have your idea and what you think should be right. You can rise up and you debate, yes, but at the end of it, it is about voting. And the vote may not go as per what you would have desired to see.
But
sometimes we see things differently.
But you see, most people throw their frustrations to the members of parliament because they do believe you are the people who are representing their issues to government, or you are the people who have their voice. So that is why most of them want the change to start with you people. But then apparently sometimes it doesn't happen.
Because parliament is a house which has its own ways of doing things. Remember, in that house, you have parties. You have the independents. There's a sitting government side,
okay,
and then there is opposition. Sometimes the ideas don't meet. Sometimes we converge into one point and we agree that this is the right way to go. But sometimes there are divergences. People take different paths. And you find that as an individual, I might have my own opinion. NRM may sit in an NRM caucus, they agree on a certain idea, but there are those also who will think that no, this is not the right idea. So always, that's why you see even when they are passing the budget, when we are debating the budget, there is a likelihood that yes, we have the main submission from the committee on the budget, but at the same time there will be what we call a minority report coming from a section of members of parliament. So that's the kind of, so people need to understand the complexities involved in the debate in the house. So parliament is structured in a certain way.
Okay.
And it is so much about numbers.
Honorable, let's look at some of the expenditure category, additional expenditure categories for the financial year 2022-23. In a simple breakdown here, the operationalization of the parish development model.
Yes.
The requirements are clearly showing that there would be an addition of 594.52 billion shillings,
yes,
in there. So if you're to look at that, the parish development model first being looked at as a key pillar of this next financial year, do you see it change anything to do with the livelihood of the Ugandan people?
It will take long. It will take long. My opinion is that it is all a start. Okay. And the other issue is that the people out there need to know that the parish development model is not something like a new fund. No, it's only a vehicle within which government delivers what? Services. So they are delivering services now around the what? Parish.
But you see, the permanent secretary to the Treasury, sorry to cut you short, did mention that this is going to be a pro-people budget. A pro-people budget in the sense that money is heading to places it has never been, and they're using the case study as the parish development model to see things move in. And I would want to know your view from that perspective. Is it a pro-people budget first, then secondly, how does the parish development model fit in for the Ugandans?
I can say it's a shadow to a pro-people's budget.
Okay.
It is almost, but it's not. I say so because the figures, if it was going to be a pro-people budget, then we would have seen trillions of money. For instance, the figure we're talking of now putting in a security here would be the one for parish development model. Okay. Put 7 trillion in a PDM, then you would see the impact. You would really feel and you know that this time around, we are ready for change. I say so because the majority, if we are talking about pro-people, who are the people? The majority. And who are the majority? The poor. Yeah, those who don't have anything in their pocket, the peasants who have been hit by the sun, come to Teso, come to Kumi, and you see the number of people who cannot even have food on their plate today. Why? Because of the drought. So if we are talking about pro-people and being for the people, first look for the majority. Who are the majority? The indigent, okay, the marginalized, the people who cannot afford. And where are they? In those parishes. But I can tell you today, a lot of money is within the administration, which is seated in either Kampala or district headquarters, not in the parishes. So I would have loved to see over 5 or 7 trillion go from Kampala to the parishes. Every place in Uganda is formed within a parish. So if we send this money through the parish, then I can tell you to see the necessary change. Then we would only put our coordination to the top. Make sure that we well structure our coordination. If we are delivering a service which is similar, we now coordinate within parishes and see what is it that is shared that we can be able to implement together. And every parish is able to benefit. That should be the way. That should be the way. But if we are talking about giving a parish 17 billion, moreover, you need to remember one thing. We are not talking about the numbers. How many people are in a parish?
To receive 17 million.
That is also the other question. You might find a parish which is having almost 50,000 people. That is a possibility in some places. Yes, in Kampala and Wakiza alone, you might assume that the people are already what? Rich. How true? How far true? Do you have the information? Do you have the data? Do you have the evidence to show that they are already out of poverty? Okay. That is a question. Parishes are also differing in terms of figures, in terms of population.
Okay, let's look at the Ministry of Education and Sports here. They, according to the additional expenditure needs for the financial year, there is an extra funding of 2.39 billion that will be heading to the funds for government-sponsored students at the Uganda Institute of Information and Communication Technology. But before we actually go deep into this, I want to know the education sector. It is the sector that is actually recovering. But if you look at the allocation of the funds, do you think in any way it is more, would you consider, last week I was actually having a discussion with the Minister of Health, Dr. Jane Ruth Aceng, and she was saying their priority has no worry whatsoever because they are always given the funds. They are always allocated enough, not enough funds, but they are allocated funds that can sustain them for the financial year. But when you look at the education sector, what do you think needs to be identified? What are those loopholes that need to be covered up with the next financial year?
Yes, first of all, would have loved the first thing and the first priority. First of all, would be to put money under skilling.
Okay.
Skilling. I say so because, my brother, you go to Entebbe today, go this morning. Actually, before you go to Entebbe airport, start from the immigration here, Ministry of Internal Affairs, and you see the number of youth who are gathered there, looking for passports, preparing to leave Uganda. Ask the question, why are you leaving Uganda? And ask them whether they're educated or not.
Most of them are.
Yes, ask them which paper they hold. Don't get surprised to hear somebody who is holding a master's degree telling you that he is trying to run to Saudi Arabia. And what is he going to do? To clean people's toilets. Is that what you would love to see?
No.
I don't think. So,
and just recently, the Bank of Uganda also revealed that we only have 1% of working Ugandans earning above $1 million.
Yes, 1%. What does it imply? The majority are squatting in terms of financial capacity. So, for me, it would rather be very, very critical for us to put money in skilling Ugandans. Let somebody have a skill that can be able to earn for them something. So we need to have a strong private sector. Put money in lending out to the people who are ready to borrow for action. But have people who are skilled. If I've opened my garage, I'll need some capital to use it. As a university graduate, I may have to forget about the degree. Come and get an additional skill that will help me to do something. But that skill needs to be accompanied with capacity in the pocket. So what does it imply? You need to borrow. You borrow from who? Borrow from government. And government should be able to reduce the cost of money to the bare minimum. That will see Ugandans relax and be able to contribute to the tax base. And government would have enough money to spend in the next coming years. For me, under education, first of all, we have an act of parliament to be yet, actually a bill to be brought to parliament on skilling. We need to have that law so that it regulates, it helps us to handle issues around imparting skills, but also the other issue is the current curriculum. Does it speak to the needs of the country now? Or we're just educating people who cannot deliver? Those are some of the issues. So we would love to invest money in education, and education should start with the technical, vocational, and business education. then we move on like that. But a situation where we educate somebody for 20 years, at the end of it, they are not able to do anything, it's really a problem. At the end, we ask for experience. If you want to employ somebody, you first ask for experience. Go to the schools and ask, do we have enough teachers? Go to the schools and ask, between the science teachers and the non-science teachers, is there happiness? There is this problem of giving a better pay to the science teachers and then reducing payment to the other ones who are not the science teachers. What are we doing? Don't you think it's a demotivator in the sector? Those are some of the issues. So, we would have loved to make sure that, one, we increase the payments of the teachers. If we had promised them before, let us clear our pledges to the teaching force. Let us make sure that the professors are happy. Let us make sure that the universities conduct research. All the government universities should be enabled to do research. Universities like Makerere should be taking lead. Now the baby universities that have just come on board should be helped to grow. Soroti University needs to be empowered. We have Muni University, Lira University, Busoga needs a university. Yes, Idibunyoro give a university. Strengthen them. But Mbarara.
Now, Honorable, when you look at the situation here, I want to believe something to do with just recently, in the next financial year still, there is also there is a potential. The chances are now high. Not even the chances, but in the next financial year, scientists are expected to receive salary increment, if all goes well, hopefully. And that includes science teachers, doctors, people who belong to the science profession.
Science sector.
So, if you're to look at that in that way, will that be a change? Will that at least be a motivation for the issue of scaling up? Because we may look at scaling up, but scaling up people who are not receiving good money may not create an opportunity that would make Ugandans yearn for those sectors.
You know, first of all, in the past, we've had scientists who have had their own ideas around workers and motivation. Talk about the man who did this theory, I think around 1881, F.W. Taylor. Who once remarked that, human beings and workers are generally people who are lazy, and they do not want to do what? To do work. They love to be supervised, they love to be coerced. To the contrary, there was another scientist, I think it was Elton Mayo, who said that workers are not concerned just about to pay, but they're also concerned about the sense of belonging, the kind of relationships at work, the behavior, just the motivation around the workplace, how they are treated. So there might be no assurance that there's a big relationship in terms of motivation between increased pay and the output from the workers. I say so because, yes, you can add the money. That salary can even climb to 20 billion. But if somebody is lazy and they are not having the passion to work, they may not work. So partly, yes, it can solve the problem. The motivation will be there. But I can tell you it won't be 100%. Human beings need to be motivated by supervising them. Sometimes you need to coerce them. Tie the payment to outputs. I would have actually preferred that we should have not raised the salaries of scientists by just raising it like that, but we should have tied it to performance. If you perform well, we pay you according to performance. It should be like a contract base. It should be like, in terms of allowances, in terms of bonuses, based on what you have done. For me, that would have been the basic thing, so that we reward basic performance, but penalize those who fail to meet the expectations. That should have been the approach. So in a way, that increase of the money for scientists somehow comes as a motivator. But it is undoing. It is demotivating the arts, the people who are non-scientists, because workers are workers. And the workers invest the time in the work. True. If you use 1 hour and I use 1 hour, that is time. And if they are saying time is money, and then they pay you for 1 hour more than what I'm paid for 1 hour, and yet the time is money, then you have cheated me. That is corruption. Right. in broad daylight.
And all right, if you can as well follow up this discussion, we are live on YouTube streaming Smart 24 TV, and please do remember to hit the subscription button. But just a simple breakdown for you. The theme for the National Budget Framework Paper for 2022-2023 is full monetization of the Ugandan economy through commercial, agriculture, industrialization, market access, and digital transformation. If I can do this again, full monetization of the Ugandan economy through commercial, agriculture, industrialization, market access, and digital transformation. Now, to achieve this, the government will undertake continuous sensitization and education of households on good investment decision making. And also, this is what we call the appropriate chibalo of the families. And this is a strategic objective under the third National Development Plan, that is the NDP3, whose overall goal is increasing household incomes and improving the quality and the life of Ugandans. You can use the hashtag on Twitter, hashtag SMB, the hashtag Smart24 updates, hashtag driving business, and more of that. Or you can as well use the hashtag JP Live. Meanwhile, before we actually end up with our discussion, I would want to head to the theme of the national budget. Honorable, it is mentioning something to do with full monetization of the Ugandan economy. One, commercial agriculture. We've apparently got to realize that there are a number of Ugandans who are shunning away from doing commercial agriculture lately. Why? Because now they do believe their sweat is not recognized. Someone does the cultivation and all that, then during harvesting time, they're not given the money that they feel is worth their sweat. So they do believe let's just do a more of personal growing of crops for home consumption. How can we at least boost commercial agriculture to see that our agricultural sector can blossom again?
Thank you. And before I answer that question, let me say that theme is talking about full monetization. But
Exactly.
for me, I think in accordance with what we have seen in the budget currently, you can talk of perceived monetization. It is not full monetization. I say so because the relationship between the theme and the actual budgeting are not resonating. They are not speaking to one another. That is my concern. So, if we really believed in a full monetization of the economy through commercialization of agriculture, industrialization, and what have you, even the budget should be speaking to that. It will be pointing towards that direction. But I don't see that happening. There's little money going towards that area. So, in my view, yes, we are talking about commercializing. And you've talked about the issue of the big commercial producers being discouraged. And what is the issue? They are not being what? Recognized. And there is no money. You labor, you get something, but at the end of it, there is no clear what? Market. What should we be doing? My take is that one, when we are budgeting for agriculture, when we are budgeting for commercialization, there should be an effort, first of all, to make our ambassadors work. Those who are out of Uganda, representing Uganda, should be commercial diplomats, career diplomats, not the political appointees or those who are appointed based on a reward. So, in my opinion, what we needed to do is to make sure that all ambassadors outside Uganda are productive. And their productivity should be measured. If you are going to be in America for 10 years and we don't see anything coming out of America, then we start questioning where is the problem. If you are in United Arab Emirates for 5 years and there is nothing, we start questioning why. If you are in South Sudan and we are not doing business with South Sudan, then there is a problem. I say so because now, for us to commercialize the country, we must tie our production efforts to demand.
Okay.
That demand should be coming from outside the country. If somebody is telling us from Cairo that he can take 1 million eggs per month from Uganda, and then we produce from the market while we know the amount that we are going to sell at, an egg goes for this in Cairo, and we have a contract already signed, there now the motivation comes. That is why for me I would think let government concentrate on markets.
Okay. Now, they mentioned something about market access here. So I would want you to at least comment something on it as well. Market access, part of the theme. How can we access these markets, by the way?
Those are the issues. So for me, one, we need to budget for that as an action. And marketing is a complex.
Costly?
Of course, everything nearly that we do has a cost. You cannot run away from cost.
Okay.
We need to be budgeting for this aspect of marketing, but also those who are doing the work for us must be highly skilled.
Okay.
So let us skill our people. But besides that, I can tell you budgeting is one thing, but having this money produce the results is another. So Parliament must raise its game in terms of oversight to follow this money to make sure that there's what an output. Otherwise, sorry, that money can easily go down the drain. So how do we do the marketing? We need to use our ambassadors. That's why I'm saying the foreign embassies, Ugandans abroad, should do something in helping Uganda. And if there are barriers, for instance, even just within our stone throw, between us and Kenya, you realize that there have been issues. We had a situation where Uganda was having challenges just exporting mere maize to Kenya. And they were saying, what was the issue here? Uganda didn't have, the suppliers were not ready for the Kenya market because the quality of the supply was in equation. We were not observing the standards. What does it mean? Uganda must employ resources in making sure that we're able to step up our levels of compliance in terms of international trading standards. That is very, very key for us. Otherwise, we shall be rotating around. We eat the cassava, we import the bread all the time because we are not able to abide by standards that help us to export the cassava to other countries. Okay. So we must put money around helping our farmers, helping our business community to comply with international standards so that we are able to take our resources beyond the borders. And remember, Uganda has its biggest advantage around agriculture.
Okay.
But we are taking it for granted. We only make it a good thing for speeches. In terms of speaking, in terms of creating themes, we create themes that look wonderful. But in terms of real action, sorry, the action is seated down. Okay. But the speeches are flying. So what are we doing? For me, that is the issue.
Honorable, lastly, digital transformation.
Yes.
We're in a digital era. It is a digital world. Everyone is turning businesses to digital, and we are using digital platforms. Everything, e-commerce and all that. How can this be transitioned in the next financial year?
That is a good thing. One, it starts with that budget, putting money in a digital transformation. It needs a lot. And two, it needs skilling. We need to skill our country in terms of digitization. There are people who have not been having that morale. You make people to choose between, when you talk of somebody going to the network, going to internet, somebody just calls up already. So first of all, giving people that confidence that digital transformation is the way to go is something very, very important. But also now, that issue is creating a divide between the urbanites and those people in the villages. Because there is a way you now realize that if you talk about digital issues, first of all, you need to have the gadgets. You need to have equipment. But not everybody is able to afford. How then are we going to create equal opportunities? It should be a human rights-based kind of approach. Even digital transformation should be based on human rights. All of us have a right to information, a right to accessing most of this. We should have equal opportunities. Those in the rural, are they up together with the people in the urban? Because in Kampala, yes, most of our issues now are reliant on gadgets. What about those behind there? What are they doing? So, Uganda needs to invest in this process so that we transform our economy. But the issue is we must do it at all levels. Get concerned about the poor. How are you treating them? How are you helping them? Hey, for instance, now if I'm applying for a passport, you are telling me go online. How do I go online under a tree in Nyero, a village in Ikumi where I come from, without a network, without a power, without a smartphone? How do I do it? How do I catch up? So the issue is there should be equal access, equal consumption of this sort of deliveries in terms of digitization. So Uganda If we choose to go that path, that is the best, because that's where the world has gone. Globalization will leave us behind. The world is interdependent. We can't continue working with the world manually when for them they're already digital. So Uganda has to wake up. But beyond that, there are issues of cyber-related crime. So as you talk about digital also talk about what? Crime.
Cyber-related.
Are we able to audit?
Okay.
Are we able to, do we have the necessary laws? We need a strong policies and legislation that match up with the trends.
Honorable, in a minute, as we're summing up, your last remarks as we're winding up with our discussion.
The budget is around 48 trillion. That is only a figure as we talk right now.
Okay.
Raising the money will need two approaches: internal, external. External will either be from the donors and borrowings. Yes, though government sometimes can even choose to borrow from the domestic, borrow internally. The other issue is through the collections that URA does. The issue is, as we talk of the 48.1 trillion, those who are supposed to pay taxes, like me, let us pay our tax. Otherwise, even the 48.1 trillion that we are talking about remains just in paper. And let us, all rally behind our government. Much as I have my divergences, my own personal opinions about the budget. Right now, as we talk, this is the budget that the country has agreed to put forward for this coming financial year, 2022-2023. Let us support government's efforts, because the government we're talking about is our government. Government is actually the people and their leaders. So let us do whatever it takes to support the process. And I want to make a call to the people, the technocrats, those who are sitting in MDAs, the ministries, departments and agencies. Please, for goodness sake, don't swallow this money. The biggest issue that we need to talk about here is the aspect of corruption, which is eating up this society. Please, wherever you are sitting, we know that you are going to be responsible. You the cow, you the sub-county chief, you the town clerk, you the permanent secretary, you the commissioners. Don't swallow up this money, for goodness sake. And I want to put that call to all the politicians like me. Yes, the budget is being ready today. Let us go down and make sure that we do serious oversight. Today, you don't send somebody to look for you something in the market with 10,000, and you are sure that they will bring something which is for 10,000. Let us follow this money to the dot to make sure that it produces results. If we as a parliament, if we as a district councils, sub-county councils, those in the town councils, municipals, if those councils don't work and follow money to the dot, I can tell you this budget will remain in the paper, but the air will also help to take away the paper. So let us invest in making sure that we carry out strong oversight to force this budget to produce the necessary intended results. That way we shall see progress. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Silas Algon, MP Kumi Municipality, and we were definitely breaking down the national budget for the year, 48.1 trillion Ugandan shillings. And of course, you'll be getting all the details in regards to the national budget speech today, live on Smart 24 TV. Stick around with me as we are getting back with the third hour of the show. Good morning.